I've conducted thousands of sales calls. I've hired, trained, and leveled up dozens of sales reps, and I've coached thousands of health practitioners to better their selling skills. And today I'm going to share with you the 3-step AIR framework to turn I need to think about it into a yes. So over the next couple minutes, guys, I'm going to walk you through this. And if you're someone who's a health practitioner, you're a coach, you're building your business online, and you're dealing with those enrollment calls, which we all have to do to enroll people into our hard ticket program, and people are telling you, this all sounds great, I just need to think about it. Well, you're going to want to pay attention, grab a pen and paper and take some notes on this one. This could change your business. Uriel Kane here, CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. And we help health practitioners and coaches build thriving online coaching businesses. And a big piece of what I personally do with our clients is I review their sales calls. I give them personalized feedback to improve their selling skills in a way that doesn't feel salesy or pushy. The reality is how we teach sales is what I call unselling. It's about getting the prospect to sell themselves to you instead of the other way around. And out of all the objections you could potentially hear, the worst one is, I need to think about it. Because what that signifies is it signifies someone they're basically avoiding making a decision. And it's not telling you the truth. And so before I dive into the specific tactics around this, I want to just backtrack a second. When I'm reviewing somebody's sales calls, whether it's a team member or a client, I always like to start in the objection, like show me the close, introduce the price, and then let's see what the objection is. And then I go right back to the start of the call. Because every single objection you will face could have been neutralized and dismantled in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the conversation. There's a very specific way of doing that. The challenge with the I need to think about it is that even when you raise, potentially prevent, and neutralize objections in the first half of the call, it's hard to isolate the I need to think about it because I need to think about it is not an objection, it's a smokescreen. There are 3 core objections that anyone has. So it's not price, it's not I need to think about it, not my I have to check with my spouse, it's not that stuff. There's 3 core objections, then there are those ones, and then there are the smokescreen, like I need to think about it, which is essentially avoiding stuff. The first core objection is I truly do not want what I said to you that I want. That's the first fundamental thing. What I've just come to sharing that I want, it's a nice to have instead of a must have. So if someone found a must have, it's never going to happen. I'll show you some ways you can identify that. 2, it's no, I really, really want it. I just don't believe that I can make it happen. I don't believe my body can change. I'm broken. Something's wrong with me. I can't get better. That's a big objection you have to be able to overcome and recognize, because not a lot of people verbally say this stuff, okay? This is the thing. These 3 core objections are not what people verbally say, but you have to understand they're happening because they'll tell you the other things that are surface smoke screens. The 3rd core objection is, I really want this. I believe I can get better or change, but I don't believe you can actually help me get there. I don't believe your solution is the right solution for me. So those are the 3 core things. You have to know how to address and neutralize those in a sales conversation. If you don't, you get to the end of the call and the person's like, this all sounds great and think about it. Let me put it this way. If your kids were kidnapped, would you have to think about it to get them back? No, unless you don't want them. So that's my frame of reference for everything. I understand you want to think about it, but if your kids were kidnapped, would you take a week to think about it or would you find a way to make it happen? No, I would do anything for my kids. Okay, great. So how's this any different? You have to be able to ask questions that get to the truth. And in the first part of your conversation, you want to get a sense of, does this person really want to change? So you're not going to ask in a normal discovery process, well, I mean, why don't you just think about this for a lot longer? Like, you're not going to ask that question in that specific nature. So please understand that, like, when someone says, I need to think about it at the end of the call, it's not the real objection. So part of your development in sales as a health practitioner is starting to recognize body language, facial expressions, when people are bullshitting you. And not that you have to call them out on that, but just so you recognize it so you can have the honest conversation. I'll give you an example. So one of our clients, Maya, we were reviewing her call a little while ago. She helps people with panic attacks. And she's talking to this one lady, 28 years of daily panic attacks. You think that would be enough? You think that would be enough to really, get someone to do something? Get to the end of the call, and she says, I need to think about it. Okay. So at the 1 hour and 11 mark, our client Maya just kind of like has the real conversation. And she says to her, you know what? I just don't get the sense that you actually want to get better. And all of a sudden, the prospect came out of her slumber coma and is like, no, I really do. And I told Maya, I'm like, what you just asked her, you could have asked her an hour ago, and the conversation would have been completely different. So I'm a big fan in a coaching relationship. I'm a big fan of challenging or questioning people. If you don't like the word challenging because it seems too confrontational, I'm not suggesting you should be confrontational, because you're never going to get anywhere with that. But if you think of challenge as confrontation, just reframe it as questioning. How do I question people to really get to the core of what's going on here? So let's talk about I need to think about it, and specifically at the points of the sale. You introduce the price, person's like, I need to think about it. So the AIR framework is AIR. Acknowledge, isolate, reframe. So the first thing we have to do, no matter what anyone says, no matter how crazy we think they are, is we have to acknowledge. I need to think about it. It sounds great. I really need to think about this. Hey, not a problem at all. Completely understand you want a moment to think about this. Okay, so what I've just done there is I've acknowledged. We cannot come to a place of agreement from disagreement. So if they say, I need to think about it, and you're like, what do you need to think about? Are you crazy? So it's not going to go too well, right? So acknowledge, that's the A. The first two parts are the easy part, okay? No matter what the objection is, you follow this framework every time. It's too expensive. Hey, I totally understand why you might feel that way, okay? Or how, you feel that way. So we acknowledge whatever the issue is. Second is we isolate. And this is super important, because if you do not isolate the real objection, you will dance around in circles and you're not actually getting to the real objection. And I'll give you an example of this. So in the I need to think about it, this will segue into the next piece. Okay. So I need to think about it. We acknowledge, we isolate, we say cool. So just so I'm clear, other than needing to think about it, is there any other reason, or is there anything else that's stopping you from moving forward today? Okay, so that's the first part of it. Person says, no, I'm just not the type of person that makes a decision on the spot or whatever they say. You don't just leave it there. And that's what most people do. You have to drill down to the other objections. Cool, totally fair. Again, we acknowledge. So, you're okay with the payments? Okay, objection. You're okay with the payments? Yeah, for sure. Payments are great. Okay, so they have to give you affirmative yeses for this stuff. If there's any hesitation, you have to double click on those. So I'll pretend the prospect is like, yes. So you're okay with the payments? Yep, perfect. Number 2, you can show up and put in the work? Yep. You believe this will get you closer towards your goals? This will work for you? Yep. And there's no one else who needs to run this by? It's just you? Yep. So they've just given you the 4 biggies other than I need to think about it. Everything's a good yes there. If that's the case, then it's well, it sounds like, unless I'm missing something, everything's in order. So just so I have clarity here, what's the main concern? Now what I just gave you is not typically what's going to happen in most conversations. No one's going to give you 4 affirmative yeses to those. There's usually one that's going to jump out with a little bit of hesitation. For instance, so you're okay with the investment and the payments? Yeah, I think boom, go into that, okay? Now, let's say we go into payments, and this is an example of someone dancing around not getting to the real issue. Is it a matter of value, or you don't have the money? So for instance, what I see a lot of is someone who's there's no way I can come up with this money. No way. They're just oh my God, $5,000? I can't even think about what that number looks like. And all of a sudden the conversation is no longer about that. And it's going well, do you know why it's priced the way it is? And now they're trying to resell the prospect on the value. It's like, hold on, dude, we're not talking about value. We're talking about the fact that they don't have the money. So the conversation, you always have to understand what the prospect is really telling you. No way, that's way out of my budget. Okay, cool. So you could ask, and I know I'm giving you some bonuses here, guys, because it's not just the I need to think about it. The I need to think about it goes into different paths. Choose your own adventure, right? So if you ask someone, cool, is it that you don't have the money or that you don't want to invest it doing this? Very few people will give you an honest answer to that. They're like, no, like I really want to do this. I just don't have the money. That's not the real, they're not going to give you an honest answer. So what you have to do is, if we're dealing with the logistics of price, you want to get to the point where the person is really put into a situation where the truth comes out. So let's say like, no, like I'm totally sold this, like, oh my God, if I had the money, I would totally do this. They're giving themselves an easy out. I see it like, oh my, this is exactly what I've been looking for, but I don't have any money. Hey, totally fair. I mean, do you have a family member that might be able to support you in this? Like mom, dad, child, rich uncle? What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to exhaust every logical possible alternative source to see how resourceful they are. Again, I'm getting out of the I need to think about it now. We're getting into the core issues. No, it's just like, no, I don't have, no one in my family has any money. Oh, that's a bummer. That's not a problem though. Are you open to exploring a third-party financing option where we actually partner with another lending company that can actually front you the money and then give you very favorable payment terms over the next 12 to even 36 months? Is that something you'd be opposed to looking at? Again, how open are they to finding a solution? Remember, I'm not interested in your resources. I'm interested in your resourcefulness. Okay, so watch me cut through the bullshit here. They're like, no, like I really don't want to go into debt. Like, let's just say they come up with that. At that point, they have no family members, no friends they can get money from, right? They're not willing to look into another lending option. 0% credit cards, nothing. They're like, nope. At this point, I start coaching. Can I be honest with you? Yeah. If your kids were kidnapped, would you be able to explore any of those other options? Would you, said otherwise, would you find a way to come up with the money to get your kids back? And again, I hate to use this example, but I want to illustrate a point here. And they would say, every single parent will say yes. And then I would lean in to say, well, how is this any different? And then it's going to come down to, well, those are my kids. And then I would say, and this is just you? Like, you're not good enough to find a way to invest in? So what I'm trying to get at here is I'm trying to get at the core of why someone's not willing to invest in themselves. I don't want what I say I want. I don't believe I can get better, or maybe I don't believe you can help me. You have to get really good at this. And this is why I spend almost 100% of my coaching with my clients on this stuff, because you have to become a detective in the conversations to understand what's really happening. Because when someone tells you I need to think about it, it's not the real issue. So let's just chunk back up. So we talked about acknowledge. We're going to acknowledge, totally understand you want to think about it. Not a problem at all. Just so I'm clear. Are you okay with the payments? Yep. You believe you can show up and do the work? Yep. You know this is going to get you closer to where you want to go? Yep. No one else can run this by? No. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So now let's look at reframing. And again, I could have double clicked into each one of those. I just looked at the money piece as a side tangent for a second. But just for the sake of keeping things on path for this video, let's just move into the reframe of the I need to think about it. So I'm going to give you 3 reframes. So number 1 is clarity over time. Some people think they need more time, and I'll just tell them, it's like, hey, listen, are you open to some feedback? Like, yep. That's an easy way of challenging someone. Is like, are you open to some feedback? Can I be honest with you? Are you open to some coaching? Right? You can ask like variations of those questions, and most people be like, yeah. And then it's like, cool. So I understand you want some time to think about it. And, many of our clients who we spoke with in the past felt the same way. But what we've actually recognized is that they weren't actually looking for more time. They were looking for more clarity. And I believe perhaps that's what you're looking for as well. But the interesting thing about clarity is that it doesn't come from more time. It comes from more information. So first and foremost, I want to apologize for not doing a good job at giving you all the information you need to make an informed decision. Now, you can say that. I want to apologize for doing a terrible job at not giving you the right information or enough of it so that you're clear on making a good decision. That's a very powerful statement, because what most people will say is, no, like you did a great job. It's just that, and then they'll tell you what's really going on. So that's one way that's kind of like path A in this one reframe. So what they found is that, or what we found is, they don't need more time, they need more clarity. Clarity comes from information. I apologize for doing a terrible job. That's path one. Another version of that reframe is how we started, right? So I understand you want some more time. Totally cool. I found that our clients were a lot of the same way. They actually wanted more clarity than more time. Clarity comes from information. So what would you need to see right now to give you more clarity that this insert name of solution is the right decision for you? And what happens here is, oh, no, like you, like nothing else. Like, you've done a great job at showing me everything. I just need insert more bullshit. Okay. So what you can do to follow up with that one is kind of like the first one was, well, listen, like, I want to apologize. Because I've done a terrible job. You're taking ownership of doing a bad job. Now, you may not have done a bad job. You're just going to take ownership of it. And at this point, if I went the B routes, I would then follow up with A. I want to apologize because apparently I've done a terrible job at giving you enough information so you have clarity about how to make the right decision for you. So you're almost like, you're saying that, and they're going to say, no, it's just like, and then hopefully, like, you're basically showing your cards so that they show theirs. No, it's not that. It's just like, I've made some rash decisions in the past, and there we go. Double click right there. So whenever the truth comes out, this is where you got to go into. This also happens with the spouse objection. Again, a little bit of a side tangent, but still related. So I want to talk to my spouse. Totally cool. It's an important decision. I understand why you'd want to do that. Isolate other than spouse. Any other reason? No, you're okay with this. Yep, cool, awesome. So, I mean, what do you think your husband would object to? Like, what do you think he would object to about this? Oh, nothing. He's totally on my side. Cool. But just playing devil's advocate, like, what if he said no? What would you do then? Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows? And again, just out of curiosity, I mean, you know him better than I do. Like, what do you think he might say no to? What I'm trying to get at is something that's very, very common, especially in the health space with women, and they might drop this earlier in the conversation too, is they might say something like, well, he'll probably say, like, you got to be really committed to this. And that's where the truth starts to come to surface. You have to be really committed to this because you've done stuff in the past that didn't pan out too well. And that's where the opportunity is. The husband doesn't believe in the wife because she has done multiple things in the past that maybe she was half-hearted into and didn't see a result. Therefore, her spouse is skeptical of her ability to commit to it. And this is what we have to dive into. And this is where the coaching begins. Okay? So again, a little bit of a tangent here, because if the spouse thing comes in, right, it's not about the spouse necessarily. It might be because the wife, in this situation, the wife failed many times in the past, and she doesn't want to look like a fool, or her husband doesn't believe in her enough to even, get behind her in this new thing. She doesn't want, and he doesn't want this, yet again, another internet program to be something that she doesn't stick to. That's the conversation, right? Now, here's the cool thing, is as you start to really understand this, and as you start to understand the core true objections of your audience, like that one I just gave you, you bring that into the front of the conversation. So start of the call, you're going through discovery, you bring up, like, is there anyone else involved? Like, you want to have involved in this conversation? Or it's like, everything with respect to your own body and health in your hands. No, it's just me. Cool. Awesome. So you get into the conversation, you can just ask them, like, are you married? Do you have kids? Yeah, like, you got a spouse? Okay. If they have a spouse, you know what I just mentioned might come up. So let's say, like, well, what else have you tried? So I'm going backwards, back to the future. I'm going into discovery here. What else have you tried in the past to solve this issue, like weight loss, whatever it is? Oh, I've done this and this and this and this. Huh. And none of that has really given you sustainable results? No, like, whatever. Like, what do you think was missing that, knowing what you know now, you'd rather have? And they're going to say that. Okay, so remember this. They've done multiple things in the past. They're in a relationship with a husband or a wife or whatever it is. Please understand that other person is going to have things they think about the person you're speaking with that are not desirable in terms of them wanting to make a change, because yet again, this could be another thing that they just jump into that may not work out. So in the discovery, I'm going to be like, so let's just say Joe's the husband. And I mean, like, does Joe know that we're talking today? And she'll say no or yes. Okay, cool. And like, how does he feel about you struggling with this, and this? Okay. And like, how does he feel about you? Watch this. How does he feel about you looking at yet again another solution when a lot of that other stuff in the past didn't work out too well? Now, watch what I'm doing is I'm bringing the objection that might come up later in the call early in. Well, like, oh, he's totally supportive. That's great. Because what happens a lot of times, Deborah, is we find that a lot of the spouses, sometimes they're actually very apprehensive because they've seen their wife fail so many times in the past. And the last thing they want is for them to get involved in yet another thing that may not work out. Do you think Joe might be feeling that in the slightest? See what I've just done? I've taken the core issue, the real objection that could prevent someone from moving forward. When someone's like, I need to think about it, right? That could be one of the things they're thinking about that they haven't told you unless you dig under the surface. And I'm taking that real issue and I bring it to the front because I know my audience and you know your audience. So whatever the core objections are, the real truth, the goal of the sales conversation is to get to the truth. It's not to close anyone, because you might find that they're not the right fit for you and you can't help them. So good, like, you help them do what's best for them. But you can't do that without getting to the truth. So let's say that Deborah says, yeah, like, Joe, like, to be honest, like, I don't think he's all that stoked about me looking into yet another solution. And I might say something like, well, sounds like you need a new spouse. Ha, 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 ha. I might jokingly say that. Like, I actually have said that in the past. In all seriousness, I'm like, yeah. Anyways, so hopefully you're tracking with me. I know we're going off on a couple tangents here, but the reason I'm kind of doing this is because this is how conversations go, is they're not linear. The linear conversation is the superficial bullshit. It's like when people live a life that looks all beautiful on the surface and underneath they're like, fucking kill me. That's what this is like. It's like everything looks good on the surface, and then one minute before the end of the call, like 1 hour and 11 minutes, the truth comes to surface. That's the conversation right there, right? So it's about being able to have the real conversation throughout the conversation so the objections don't really come up. So I need to think about it. Okay, cool. So we talked about clarity over time. Clarity comes from more information. So what specifically can I provide for you right now that will give you the clarity that this is the right thing for you? And again, here's the thing. Before the close, we've already asked them if this is the right thing for them, okay? And they would have said yes. If not, we would have addressed that ahead of time. So that's level 1. Okay, so the second reframe is understanding that most people hesitate because they're afraid. Humans are terrified of uncertainty. They would rather live in shit that smells horrific, metaphorically speaking, even though they know over there is this beautiful, sun-kissed, deserted islands. What they're terrified of is, well, if I go from this shit to the islands, how do I know I'm going to make it? What if I get eaten by a shark or whatever it is? That's the human experience. So we want to bring this to surface. Okay, cool. So I don't make decisions on the spot. I want to meditate on it for 7 days. I like to sleep on things. I'm not the type of person, like, they're all bullshit answers. Okay. Because at the core of it, it's like, listen, like, you could say, well, if you're the type of person who doesn't make decisions on the spot, I mean, has that worked out for you so far? And they might say, well, no, not really. Well, like, but like, I'm not going there. Like, I'm just thinking that. Okay. So I don't want to make a rash decision. I want a lot of time because I feel that I just want to avoid making a decision because, God forbid, what if I make the wrong decision? That's what's happening in the prospect's mind. So we want to address this. Like, listen, based on what you shared with me, the good news is that this is not a rash decision. You've been thinking about this for a long time, right? You've been dealing with this stuff for a long time. And kudos to you for looking at different alternatives or possible solutions to solving this once and for all. And listen, like, all we're trying to do today is, again, trying to decide whether this potential route is right for you, right? And whether it's today or next week or next month, it's going to come down to making a decision. And I understand that that's hard because we never want to make the wrong decision. It terrifies us. But if you know in your heart of heart that this does feel right to you, but you're still a little bit fearful and uncertain, that's totally okay. Like, I want you to know that, like, it's okay to feel that way because you're about to embark into uncharted territory, or maybe territory you've ventured into before that may have not worked out as well as you would have hoped it would have. So I understand if you're a bit apprehensive. So I guess, I mean, just so we're on the same page, what are you most nervous about having happen if we move forward with this today that you don't think would happen if we move forward with it next week? And so what I've done is I said, well, what are you nervous of happening today that you're not going to feel nervous about next week or in the future when you do make the decision? And they're going to say, like, if they're truthful, they're like, I just want to make sure that this is the right decision. Hey, that's totally great. I mean, that's awesome, right? We both want to make sure it's the right decision. Well, what makes you feel that this isn't the right decision for you? Again, you don't go into explaining, you ask a question. And they're going to say whatever they say. Well, how do I know it's going to work? Ding, 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 ding. Now we get to the true issue, right? Core objection number 3, I don't believe your solution will work. Or maybe that's for other people, but will it work for me? Well, I mean, do you have a guarantee or anything? How do I know this is going to work for me? Well, what makes you believe it wouldn't work for you? Well, I've done stuff in the past that didn't fail. Like, I think, like, okay, cool. Like, what would you need to see from me today in order for you to feel comfortable and confident to move forward with this? Well, like, if you had some kind of guarantee, that'd be amazing. Hey, I totally understand you would love a guarantee, and who wouldn't? But if I'm being honest with you, if you're the type of person who requires a guarantee, I don't think this is going to work for you, because that's not the type of client I'm looking to work with. Because if I'm being honest with you, water's wet, fire's hot, life is uncertain. And I could offer you a guarantee if I had 100% control of your process. If I lived in your mind and in your body and I had 100% control over it, I could offer you a guarantee. But in all integrity, I'm going to show up to support you, but you have to meet me halfway, and I can't control that side of things. If you don't work out, if you don't change your dietary habits, if you don't, like, whatever it is. So do you see why in all integrity, that I can't offer you an outcome-based guarantee? I can promise you a proven path, but I can't guarantee you an outcome because that outcome is on you. So what I've just done there, again, we're going into how do I know this is going to work? Well, what makes you think it wouldn't? Well, I've done stuff in the past, or I'm asking for a guarantee. Again, it can go a lot of different ways. But I'm a big believer, guys, guarantees in a coaching program, as I've said before, no bueno, because you're getting people over the line who shouldn't be coming into the program. That's why I say, listen, if you're the type of person who requires a guarantee, I don't think I can actually invite you into this program if I'm being honest. Because guess what might happen is this might not work out because I can't control your behavior. That's on you. So I need to know from you, and I gotta put this right back in the prospects. For me to feel confident based on our conversation here, I'm a little bit concerned, if I'm being honest. between the two of us, I have the track record of producing results in this domain. You have the track record of not producing the results in this domain. And again, I'm not trying to be like too cool for school or egotistical. I'm just stating the facts. So I'm a little bit concerned because my reputation is on the line. If I bring you or any client in who is not going to succeed or is not going to do the work or is going to give up when the going gets tough, I can't do that. I can't bring clients in like that. So I need to know from you that you have what it takes to do the work, to show up when the going gets tough, and to keep going even when you don't want to. Can you do that? Yes, I can. Great. Then that's your guarantee. See what I've done there? I'm not selling, I'm unselling. I'm pushing the prospect to really be like, listen, my reputation, like I'm the one who's a bit concerned now. Like instead of you asking me for references, like client testimonials, I need to see some references from you. Like what other programs have you done before? Can I talk to your guide at Weight Watchers or whatever they're like, your team lead? I need to know how you're going to show up. And so this is the key is like, you are the prize never chases. And you have to learn how to turn the conversation onto the prospect because at the end of the day, it is your reputation. Hopefully this is making sense. And again, I know we're going a little bit all over the place, but I hope you're tracking. This might be a video you want to revisit a few times. Acknowledge, isolate, reframe. We talked about 2 reframes. The first one was clarity over time. The second one that we just discussed was, well, what are you most nervous about? That's totally okay to feel that way. Let's see if we can bring that to surface. The final one I'll share with you is the likelihood of this happening. I love this one. So I'm not going to share this right off the bat with someone. Like if the person's like, I need to think about it. I'm like, cool, totally get it. Other than needing to think of it, is there anything else? They're like, no. I'm like, awesome. Can I be honest with you? I've been at this for a long time, and here's what happens. I would not start with what I'm about to say as the first approach to reframe. Okay, this is like back pocket. That's why I saved this for last. So, Bob, can I be honest with you? Yeah, okay. I've been at this for a very, very long time, and I've had more calls than you care to even know about. And here's what happens after this conversation is you tell me you're in or you're interested and you want some time to think about it. But in the back of my mind, I know that that's a polite way of getting out of this conversation. And then I will most likely get an email from you, if I'm lucky enough to get that, later today or tomorrow, stating how awesome the call was, but you've decided to go in a different direction. So I share this just to kind of like put our cards on the table because the likelihood of you getting the results you want with my help is close to 0% after we get off this call. And it's not because of needing to think about it. It's because I don't understand and I don't have clarity around what the core issue is here. And that's my fault. I just want to be honest with you and I just expect you to be honest with me. So I'd love to know from you what's really holding you back. Because I don't want to give up on you, but if you don't want to do this, just let me know. It's all good. I've got thick skin. I can handle it. So what I'm getting at there is I'm trying to get at the idea that the likelihood of us working together is close to 0 if we get off this call. Because at this juncture, and the person's like, I need to think about it, I have no idea what they're thinking about. So the reality is they're using that as a scapegoat to get off the call. And I promise you guys, I would put so much money on the table, like fucking so much money on the table here. If you get off, and this drives me crazy when I see this with our team. Yeah, they just need a couple of days to think about it. I'm like, what's the core issue? Oh, they just want some time. I'm like, fuck. They're basically getting out of a conversation they don't want to be in, and they're not telling you the truth. So this person is done. They're out, okay? Understand that. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you'll get to the core issue in the calls. Most people are afraid of hurting other people's feelings. Most people are afraid of speaking the truth of what's really in the back of their mind, both prospect and sales rep or practitioner or whatever. So if you get to the end of the call, you're either earning, like the client's enrolling, or you're learning. If someone gets off the phone with you and they're like, I need to think about it, and you're like, cool, let's just book in a follow-up call, you've learned nothing. Nothing. You have no idea. If I were to ask you what's the real issue, you'd be like, I have no idea. And now you're fucked. because you have no idea, you have no leverage, you have no clarity, and you will 100%, like I swear, 100% guarantee on this. You'll get a text message, an email, if you're lucky, canceling a follow-up or whatever. Or they just ghost you, because most people would rather just like cower away than tell someone the truth. So just tell them, listen, like, dude, you're not going to hurt my feelings. You either want to do this, but you're afraid, or you don't want it. Where do you find yourself? Again, doesn't matter to me. Like, I really know this is going to make a huge difference for you, but we get off this call, makes no difference to my life. I'm going to be working with all these amazing clients for progressing to where you want to go, and you're going to stay stuck. So again, makes no difference to me. I would love to help you, but I don't need to. So just like, tell it to me straight. Like, I'll tell you if you're not a good fit for this. I would have told you that. I just expect the same in return. And just see if they'll tell you the truth. Because if you get off the call and they're like, well, if they tell you, well, it's more money than I was hoping for. Fucking thank you. Let's talk about that, right? Or something. But the I need to think about it is the worst objection to hear, because you are not clear. It's not telling you anything about the situation. So hopefully this framework, AIR, acknowledge, isolate, reframe, and a couple of tangential paths that we've gone down has given you some more clarity, some more word tracks, and hopefully more importantly is an understanding of like, you have to understand there's what people say and there's what they mean under the surface. And you have to listen to their tonality. You have to look at their body language. And when someone like before, as an example, I'll just finish with this. Before you introduce price, you can ask the question like, so based on everything I've shared with you here, does this feel like the right solution for you to help you X, Y, or Z? And the person's like, yeah, that's not a good answer. Don't move forward. Stop there. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. I would call that out to be like, yeah, I mean, I sense a bit of hesitation. What's come out for you? And again, I'm just playful with it, right? I'm curious. I'm questioning. What's that? We got to unpack that, because if we don't unpack that, you get to price, it doesn't matter what happens after that, okay? In a coaching business, you are enrolling clients most likely in conversations. And if you don't know how to have the real conversation, you're going to waste so much time with people who are just being like, oh, this was a great call. Thank you so much. And then you're just never going to see them again. So anyways, if you enjoyed this, subscribe. I've got lots of other videos on the channel on the selling side of things. But if you want more of the specific objection stuff, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see if we can hook you up. Thanks again for your time, and we'll see you in the next one. Today, I'm going to share with you how to build a $1 million health coaching business in just a few minutes. And I'm going to show you exactly how to break it down from the top to the bottom. I'm going to walk you through the numbers, and I'm going to share with you what I do every single day with hundreds of health practitioners just like you.